Welcome everybody to the Social Dig, the greatest underrated show on the World Wide Web. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and as always, we're going to be digging into the topics that keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So come on in, kick your feet up, get comfortable, get an ice cold beverage, get ready to join the conversation. We would love to have you join the conversation today. We had a great show yesterday. I think it went pretty awesome. We had Jim on the stage. He spoke for a while. Appreciate you, Jim. Definitely want to thank you for being, sometimes it's tough to be that first person to get up there and start talking. So I don't blame you. Sometimes we have people in the chat. Sometimes we have people that are just watching that aren't in the chat at all. So if you're one of those people who, are watching, but you're not in the chat, I would appreciate if you hit that subscribe button, notification bell, so you are notified next time or anytime that we go live here. And then maybe one day, you feel comfortable enough to join the chat. And then maybe once you feel comfortable in the chat, that you'll come in and join the conversation, step on the stage and talk about your experience, talk about something interesting, something that helps the conversation, helps us move forward as humanity to get to that next step. That's what we do here. That's what it's all about. So it's posted in the chat, but just so in case you don't have access to the chat, let me go ahead and bring the number up on the screen here. So the number for you to call in, if you would like to do so, the lines are open. I'm checking here. They are open. It's going to be 856-843-3444, or that's 856-THE-DIGG. So you can either do that, or if you feel comfortable enough, you can click on the StreamYard link, which is located pinned at the top of the chat, and you can come on, hop on stage, and talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. All we ask is no religion, no politics. Try to refrain from cursing. I know it happens, but and just, something that's going to move the needle here. All input is welcome. We can learn from each other. That is the beauty of being able to sit down and have these conversations. Everyone has something to offer that's valid. So I'm not just the speaker, right? I want to talk. I want to be in the conversation with you. So welcome to the show. Welcome. Eternal. Welcome. New name. I love it. Thank you for coming in. JSCO77, thanks for coming. Alien Outlaw, thanks for coming. Wes H, thanks for coming in. To Mothman, thanks for coming. Lex Diaz says already subscribed. Thank you so much, Lex, for doing so. And said JSCO, thank you. Okay. All right. So we're going to get into it, man. We're just going to get into some general conversation here. There were a couple things yesterday that I kind of wanted to talk about to open up the conversation, and just had to do with the whole disclosure situation, right? So it seems like, we have roadblocks. We have things that have gotten in the way of our disclosure process, and I'm just, disheartened by it. But at the same time, I know that we as humanity have to take the reins on this and kind of usher this thing in. And one of the things that we touched on or talked about was the fact that, we had Brian Bowden on After Hours on Saturday, and he's telling us about how he has the ability to bring these things in, how to kind of summon these things in using a technique called CE5. A Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, where you're able to actually, communicate with these crafts or ET. I love that. And like I said yesterday on the show yesterday, totally believe it's a thing that we can do. And at the end of the day, maybe we schedule something or we get everyone together who has the ability to do this so that we can set a date. That would be monumentous. That would go down in the history books if we had set something up like that, and then we're actually able to contact the craft. That would, they'd probably make a movie about that. I don't see how they couldn't make a movie about that. So maybe that's an epic thing that we can play a part in organizing, um, and getting some of the best CE5 people together so that we can do that. That is literally on my list of a plausible way to bring in disclosure, right? Because if it can be done, let's do it. So that's the boat that I'm in right now. But I did want to start out with because I want yesterday we kind of talked about that, but I wanted to get into the Arrow website and kind of some of these cases that they call resolved. I watched another show talk about this. Um, one of the guys I follow, and if you look at it, so skeptics are celebrating these reports being resolved because in these resolutions, they're essentially stating that these are all explainable, prosaic explanations for all these. I'm open to that being the case. I'm open to these cases being closed. I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with them being explained as prosaic. I'm okay at the end of the day because I know there's anomalous things out there that won't be able to be explained. So let's get the ones that can be out of the way so they don't cloud up the conversation. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is the information being presented, and we're going to look through it because I'm hoping that what I'm about to say just gets disproven by looking through their website. But we're going to take a look through it today and see if they show their work. Right? We used to remember when you were in school and you had to do your math or whatever it was that you were doing in school, and instead of your teacher accepting the correct answer, she wanted you or he wanted you to show your work. So show how you came to that conclusion. Show me that you have an understanding of this concept, and show me the steps that you took to come to the correct answer. And that's all I'm asking for with the Arrow case resolutions. I think it's a great idea to have a site up. If they're going to look through cases, that's fine. But when you get ready to, so if you're first to the if you're first to the mic to say these things aren't real, and we know that you're an organization set up to kind of, at the end of the day, more than likely you're there to disprove things instead of confirm things. Let's be clear about that. So, you're not set up really to confirm the things that are anomalous as anomalous and potentially ET craft. You're literally set up to resolve cases and say, hey, this wasn't an ET craft. Look, this was just a plane, to kind of kill the conversation. So we know that. But I'm going to, like I said, take a middle of the road approach. I'm going to be fair. I want to be fair. And I want to give them the chance to, be honest about the conclusions that they're coming to. And I'll accept whatever conclusions that you show. As long as you can show your work and show how you came to those conclusions. The only caveat, right? Thanks for coming in, Black Dragon, Wordless. Appreciate you. And let me go ahead and just bring up the site here. Let me share my screen. And we could take a look. I don't know if anyone has looked at that. And we could talk about that in a minute. Alien Outlaw on the Moon. I did a whole show on the moon, really. And maybe we can dive into that. Actually, the slide that I have up, this was from that show. And man's push for the moon. So I'll leave that up, Alien Outlaw. And we'll get into that. Because I took a middle of the road approach on this show and kind of went into the moon. So it's perfect that you brought that up because I already had this sitting here queued. So excellent. We'll do that. But let me go ahead and bring up the Arrow website. And let's see. So this is the website. I'm going to bring this up here. And you guys won't be able to see that well. Let me see if this works any better. Okay. All right. So we'll try it like that. Let me get to the back side here. Okay. So this is the Arrow website. Doesn't look that great, but this is what it is. What it is. So the mission, right? Minimize technical and intelligence surprise by synchronizing scientific intelligence and operational detection, identification, attribution, and mitigation of unidentified anomalous phenomena in the vicinity of national security assets. The vision: unidentified anomalous phenomena are effectively and efficiently detected, tracked, and analyzed, and managed by way of normalized DoD, intelligence community, and civil business practices by adherence to the highest scientific and intelligence trade craft standards, and with the greatest transparency and shared awareness. And that's actually why we're here. And I wanted to see if there's actual transparency and shared awareness, because if these cases have been resolved and there's a report on each of these that we'll look at, then let's make sure that there was transparency in how they came to those conclusions, or if they simply dropped the report and said, hey, these are conclusions, these aren't real, and let's move on. Because if that's the case, then I have a problem with that. But if they showed their work, I will applaud them for it, because I think it's very important to the conversation, on for both sides of the conversation, that any details of the work is shown and proven. Because whether that's for or against, whether it's for the skeptics to say, yeah, okay, this wasn't anything, okay, great, you showed your work, I'm okay with that. But if we have something anomalous, I would like for them to show the work too. The things they tried to put it up against to determine if this was real or not. And I think that's the best way to have the conversation on both sides. So we're familiar with this here. This is the UAP reporting trends paperwork that they brought out during a couple of those hearings with Kirkpatrick. And one of the things that I used in one of my videos, the White Spheres video, because I wanted to point out that, or I did point out, that they showed that, as they say here, typically reported UAP characteristics, right? So the morphology size is 1 to 4 meters. Morphology is round. Color, white, silver, translucent. Altitude, 10K to 30K, 30,000 feet. Velocity, stationary to Mach 2. Propulsion, no thermal exhaust detected. Radar, intermittent, X-band, 8 to 12 gigahertz. Radio, 1 to 3 gigahertz, 8 to 12 GMs, and I'm not sure what that is. I'm sure I could look it up. But thermal, intermittent, shortwave, infrared, medium wave, infrared. So I brought this up in one of the videos because the objects that I captured, and this is prior to, this is about a year ago, so prior to this, still at a time when the UAP report and the government were redacting the shapes of these craft or these objects. They just wouldn't tell us what they looked like, what are the common shapes. They wouldn't show us any of that. But then, magically, in January of this year, the UAP report that was supposed to be released October 31st of last year, it was delayed, obviously, if you remember, through November, through December, and then finally released in January of 2023, where they finally came out and said, mentioned for the first time in the report, balloon-like entities. And then all of a sudden, now we have shapes. A few weeks later, we have, coincidentally, a balloon-like entity that made the global news on a global stage, where we ended up shooting down a Chinese spy balloon. And then that's where the UAPs are potentially balloons conversation came up, or started, because it was the objective of, in my opinion, the objective of the DoD and the Pentagon to tried to confuse the issue of UAPs being balloons, like being mistaken as balloons, and it was clear as day that that's what they were doing. Now, for us in ufology who have studied this, like we know what UAPs and UFOs are, we know the difference. We know, what type of play this was. But for people who are in the outside of ufology, who are just maybe beginning to become interested in the subject, if they hear that, they're like, okay, well, there's nothing to this story then, because UAPs, they're finding out that they're potentially just spy balloons, and things of that nature. So just keep in mind that conversation there. So, with that being said, moving forward, now they admit that there are white, silver, translucent objects that make up, let's see, 7%. Let me see this: triangle, disc, cylinder, oval, tic tac. No, orb, round spheres make up, on this report, as current day, 34% of reported sightings. So, all right, so let's go down on the page here. If you recall, I believe there was like 144. We know there's more, but there were 144 they admitted to that they couldn't determine what they were, and that they were, if you recall, Kirkpatrick in the hearing stating that they're methodically looking through this and outline the process that they go to or go through to close these cases, and what they consider a closed case, and he talked about all that. Now we get to a point to where they finally have started or begun to close cases, or what they call resolve cases, case resolution reports. So that's this right here. And we're going to go ahead and take a look. I don't know if you can see my mouse here. Yeah, you can. Okay, so case resolution reports. I already have one opened here. Actually, well, let me just do this. I'll click this here. All right. And actually, let's start with some of the videos, because I want to, I think some of these that have been resolved are listed in the videos. There's the atmospheric weight case resolution. So those are those. Let me see. Western United States. Okay, yeah. So each of these have case resolutions. So let me try to bring this one up here. So this one was the first one here. Try to, will that show? Let me see if it'll show big screen. Okay, so that's this one here. If you guys recall this video. So remember this. So apparently they've resolved this one. I'll let it play for its full time here. Actually, bring that in a little bit. All right, and we'll let this keep going. It's a Western case resolution. We'll read the report on it. I must say, it's pretty clear pictures of these clouds at night. right. So according to this, I'll go ahead and stop it here. That is a clear picture of the cloud, though. Wow. Okay. So looking at this, all the domain anomaly resolution office. So what they show, and it's this. Let me see if I can zoom in on this here. No, it doesn't do any good. All right, I'll just read it to you. So, okay, key findings. So, Arrow assesses that the UAPs in this case were almost certainly commercial aircraft traveling on well established air corridors as far as 300 nautical miles from the platform, based on a thorough review of the data by multiple analytical and scientific entities. Military personnel reported seeing five equidistant lights that they believed represented a potential incursion into restricted military airspace. Okay. All right, airspace. Okay. Arrow's Intelligence and Science Technology, S&T partners, independently came to the same conclusion in accordance with Arrow's analytic framework. The object strongly correlated with specific commercial aircraft traveling on different air routes up to 300 nautical miles from the sensor. Analysis of the object's positions and acquisition of additional data led Arrow to the conclusion that the objects were significantly farther from the platform than originally estimated by the observers. So, the case essentials. Military personnel reported this case due to the observed UAP presenting a potential incursion into restricted airspace. The UAP were described as equidistant lights that flew at relatively constant pace. Location, Western United States military airspace. Dates 2021, altitude between 20,000 and 40,000 feet. Shaped oblong dots and lights. Reporter, military personnel. Sensor, infrared, behavior, equidistant lights that flew at a relatively constant pace. Case status, resolved. The lights were aircraft up to 300 nautical miles away from the sensor. Okay, so that's what they're saying for that case here. Apparent changes in the UAP shapes were the result of sensor vibration and autofocus. Analysis of air traffic control data suggested the objects were likely commercial aircraft transiting known flight corridors between major airports in the region. Arrow's S&T partners independently came to the same conclusion. Arrow's S&T partners used bore site analysis to determine that the UAP were commercial aircraft at an altitude between 20,000 and 40,000 feet at a similar distance. Okay, I think that's it for that report. And then showing these, I guess zoomed in what those things were looking like. So my only question is, right, because this was it. This was the report for this, and they're just essentially report saying that they came to these conclusions and that these things were resolved. Nothing more than commercial aircraft flying known flight corridors between major airports in the region. Okay. My question would be, couldn't they have checked Flight Tracker 24 to find that out if they understand where the region is? Or I guess essentially they're saying that these were thought to have been closer than they actually were. But do you need a whole investigative team to go through the paces to check flight records and flight locations and know that this is a known flight corridor, from the beginning? Isn't this like step one of investigating if these were planes or not? I would think. But, my whole problem with it is, and they could be right though, at the end of the day, they could have actually done the work to find this out. But my question is, where is the work? Where you should be including the data that you use to come to these conclusions within the report. I don't think that there's enough in this conclusion to satisfy, right? It'll satisfy one side of the conversation, but for like other people who want to make sure these aren't anomalous, where's show the data that proves that this was the case. And I think if they're not doing that, then that's a miss. It's a miss for them, because if they are really closing these cases out authentically, genuinely, then the casework should be included, so that there's no, there's nothing else to say about it. It's not left in a gray area. There's not left with a but it could have been, you know what I mean? And that's the problem that I'm having with the conclusion so far. So in this report, based off of what you just saw, that video's been out for a while. Apparently they've been investigating that for a while. Explain why those lights are moving back and forth like they did in the video. Explain that. Explain why, and I don't think that they do that in this conclusion. Granted, like I said, they may have the data that shows why they have come to that conclusion, but if we go back here to the arrow site, which we're doing right now, real quick, where's the data that says that? Where do you find that at? Listen, I'm looking. I don't, and these are just the same resolution reports that I was just reading. But it's like, okay, where's that extra data at? Okay, so that's for that one. So let's go with one of the other videos here that they showed, the atmospheric wake South Asian object sensor number 1. These are all videos that we saw in the hearings, or the UAP, I guess they were hearings that they showed with Kirkpatrick. So let's go ahead and take a look at this first one here, sensor 1, South Asian object. All right, so that was sensor 1. Let's go back. Shoot. All right, let's check out sensor 2. That I don't know, Tomas, man. If it's live or Memorex, I am. When we close the video out, I don't know if it says it at the beginning there or not, but that's part of the problem. See, well, this is what we have on the website. So we have the video, and maybe it showed it in the beginning, said unclassified, but it's all about, okay, here's the video that was presented, and then here's our resolution. But in the first case, they didn't talk about how they really came to the resolution, or they didn't show how they did, which I think for this conversation is pretty important for them to do. Like if you're able to recreate it, you should be able to recreate the image or the video from, taking video of a flight path at the same distance and showing how the videos match. It should be pretty simple to do that. Okay, so that's this one. Let me back out of this one. All right, so that's sensor one, sensor two. Says the first one was the MQ9 forward looking infrared video sensor. That was the short one we watched, captured the footage of South Asia as it was recording another MQ9. After analysis of the full motion video, inclusion of additional footage with the longer focal length, and analysis of commercial flight data in the region, Aero assesses that the object is likely a commercial aircraft, and that the trailing cavitation is a sensor artifact resultant of video compression. Okay, likely. I don't like words like likely. Like you should be able to recreate this. But let's take a look at the resolution report for this one here. And okay. So with both of those, let me see here. I don't think I read the second. Yeah, they're both the same description. So, okay. All right. So on those two videos we just watched, I just read you the brief synopsis of what they were saying. So these are the key findings in the actual resolution report. So the key findings, case essentials. These reports were submitted after 3 different missions in the Middle East and the Mediterranean Sea in 2022 and 2023. The reports were filed due to the potential hazard posed to the mission and because the videos depict the potentially anomalous propulsion signature. The Mediterranean Sea, reporter, theater, UAV operators, sensor, infrared, behavior, exhibited potential anomalous propulsion. Case resolved, the prosaic aircraft, the quote, wake is a sensor artifact in each case. Okay, they should be able to recreate that then. They have the tools to do so. That's my problem. So, key findings, Aero assesses that the UAP reported in these 3 cases almost certainly were not exhibiting anomalous propulsion or atmospheric wakes. Rather, the observed effect was the result of a sensor artifact in all cases based on analysis by Aero's intelligence and science and technology partners. The object in case 1 has not been identified, but Aero is certain that it was not exhibiting anomalous behavior. Okay, let's remember that statement there. In case 2, one object was almost certainly a known military aircraft. The second object appears oblong due to camera aberration and remains unidentified, but also was probably a prosaic aircraft as well. So words like probably, likely, these aren't these. So when you have those kind of words, that's what calls. Even though they should already show the work that led them to this, then it makes you even more want to see the work because you're using words like probably and likely. So in case 3, the object was almost certainly a known and identified commercial aircraft traveling along a recognized travel corridor. Almost certainly, likely, probably, right? These aren't definitive words like definitely or conclusively or, you know what I mean? So you have the ability to recreate these. If you have the same sensors, you own the sensors that were used in these cases, military sensors, you own them. You can use those sensors to recreate what you're depicting here or what you're stating here. That's the problem I have. You should be able to do that. And did you do that? Maybe they did. Maybe that's part of the work they went through to determine to be able to resolve these cases. But we don't know because they're not showing us the work. So back to what I said in the beginning, show the work. If you show the work, then you can conclusively close these cases without anything else to be said. So let me see what it says here. Intelligence assessment Arrow's intelligence partners assess with high confidence that the atmospheric wake in each video is a sensor anomaly. Arrow's intelligence partners were not able to identify the object of case one, but have high confidence that it is not displaying any anomalous characteristics and are almost certain it's a prosaic object on thorough review of the evidence. All right, page two. Oh, page two. For the two UAP reported in case two, it is assessed that both objects are most likely aircraft, one military, the other a small but unidentified aircraft. Location data from the aircraft in the vicinity were compared, and it was determined that one of the UAP matched closely with a track of a military aircraft. Although a similar match of the second object was not possible, it was assessed with medium confidence, right, that it is a small aircraft. This assessment was based on the line of sight analysis and comparing it to other known objects. Arrow's intelligence partners have high confidence that they have identified the UAP in case 3 as a specific Airbus A380 commercial aircraft based on commercial flight data. Photogrammetry analysis of the object in case 3 was conducted, which resulted in a close size estimate to that of an Airbus 830. Okay, I might be able to accept that one. But the other two, how can you put them in a. Hold on, let me get this back here. How can you put them in a resolved category? So, science and technology assessment. So these are separate assessments. Intelligence first, then science and technology. So, science and technology assessment. Two of Arrow's S&T partners also assessed that the wakes observed in these three cases were sensor artifacts but did not identify the objects captured on the sensors. S&T Partner 1 assessed the trails were camera artifacts resulting from the object rapidly traversing the camera's field of view. It was noted that other objects in the videos also leave a similar trail. S&T Partner 2 conducted a detailed analysis of the full motion video and IR sensor, reaching the same high confidence conclusion that the wakes were censored artifacts. So this is case 2, sensor artifact trailing the aircraft. Okay, and that's the only one they have in there. Okay. All right. So going back now, and this is the third one that they. Let's see. We did that one. So, wait a minute. One. Okay. All right. This is a different one here. This is one that you guys all remember too. So, let me bring this one up. This is the atmospheric wake Middle East object video. Let's go ahead and take a look at that one. Again, play it again real quick. This is the I believe the Mosul orb, right? I want to say it's the Mosul orb. So I would love to hear what they have to say about this one. But that looks pretty anomalous to me. I want to see how this is being explained. Okay. All right. So that's the Middle East object, atmospheric wake. It says this clip was taken by MQ-9 in the Middle East. And while Arrow assesses the object in the clip is not exhibiting anomalous behavior, the object remains unidentified. Okay, all right. Well, let's see here. Let's see what it says. I wonder if that's the same one we just read. Let me check here. Okay. All right. So okay. So that one was unidentified. Okay. Well, I like that because it's obviously not any. It's pretty clear as well. So it'd be hard to explain that one away as any of the things that they said here for the other ones. So I like that though, okay? But I think that's pretty apparent that that is anomalous and is probably remains unidentified because you can clearly see that it's not anything that we recognize or would realize that it is. So I don't think it's that hard to come to that conclusion on that. But I'm going to go over the Arrow website again just to kind of see if there's any other section here where they might actually be showing this data. Like if there's a separate section where they've compiled how they came to these conclusions. So this is the reporting part where you can report. Let's see. Okay, just to be sure. Education resources. Nope, nope, nope. Historical reviews and research. You'll see what's there. Nope, just talking about the NASA study. Okay, nope, nothing there. All right, just wanted to be sure before I make that statement or finalize my statement here. This is the new director, if anybody didn't know. Timothy A. Phillips, Deputy Director, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. Um, let's see. Mr. Timothy A. Phillips assumed the duties of the Deputy Director, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, ARROW, in October 2023. He is a Senior National Intelligence Service Executive appointed in 2006 with over 40 years of government experience serving in a variety of senior intelligence community assignments in the field and at agency headquarters. Mr. Phillips is a retired United States Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel serving in peacekeeping, humanitarian, or combat operations in Lebanon, Somalia, Kuwait, Iraq, Joint Task Force Bravo, and JFT 510. Okay, all right. All right, nothing else to see there. So I'm going to come back here because I want to know what are your thoughts on that. Let me go back. I haven't been able to see the chat because I was reading through that there. Let me just go back real quick, see if anybody had anything to say about that. Da, 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 da. We could probably do this here in a minute, Derek. Simon Likeable, Rob, check out the education resources and FAQs part. Spherical Drone Papers has a nice pic of a silver ball figure 9 photo of. Okay, let me check that out. Education resources and FAQs. Let me see. Spherical drone paper, close visual bridge inspection using the UAV. Let me check this. Is this it? Spherical drone papers. That's what I was looking at here. Okay. Number 9, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's check this here. I don't see that, Simon. What header is that under? Because I would like to bring that up. I'm looking at it right now. Uh, top one, spherical indoor. Okay. Let me see. Okay, I see that one. All right. Where is there a picture? Okay. The propulsion blimp design is propelled. Okay, let's read that. It's pretty long. Let me see. Bring this up. All right, let's see. It's reading what it says here. Spiced. SP iced. Spiced. Let me see. All right, I'm gonna read through it real quick just so we can understand what this is. Introduction. Let me see. Even as non human robot interactions become increasingly common, conventional small unmanned aircraft systems, or SUAS, typically multicopters, can still be in safer deployment in an indoor environment in close proximity to humans without significant safety precautions. This is due to their fast spinning propellers and lack of a fail safe mechanism in the event of a loss of power. A blimp, a non rigid airship filled with lighter than air gases, is inherently safer as it floats in the air and is generally incapable of high speed motion. The spherical indoor Kowanda effect drone, or SPICED, is a novel, safe spherical blimp design propelled by closed impellers utilizing the Kowanda effect. Unlike a multicopter or conventional propeller blimp, the closed impellers reduce safety risks to the surrounding people and objects, allowing for Spiced to be operated in close proximity with humans and opening up the possible novel human drone interactions. The design implements multi-closed impeller rotors as propulsion units to accelerate airflow along the surface of the spherical blimp and produce thrust by utilizing the Kawada effect. A cube configuration with 8 unidirectional propulsion units is presented, together with the closed loop proportional integral derivative, or PID, controllers and custom control mixing algorithm for position of altitude control in the three axes. A physical prototype of the propulsion unit and blimp SUAS was constructed to experimentally validate the dynamic behavior and controls in motion captured environment, with the experimental results compared to the side tetra configuration with 4 bidirectional propulsional units as presented in our previously published conference paper. An up to 40% reduction in trajectory control error was observed in the new cube configuration, which is also capable of motion control in all 6 degrees of freedom with additional pitch and roll control when compared to side tetra configuration. So, introduction. Let me read some of this here. The advancement of consumer SUAS technology in recent years has enabled many applications, indoor environments such as inspection, surveillance, advertising, etc. Many of these applications utilize multicopter UAS mainly due to their high payload capacity, high maneuverability, and simple mechanical construction. There are many sources of external disturbances for SUAS flights in an outdoor environment, such as strong wind gusts. Therefore, in such operating environment, a multicopter's high maneuverability is essential for a stable and reliable operation. However, in an indoor environment, this high maneuverability is often unnecessary, while the other characteristics of a multicopter, such as its low flight endurance, High noise signature and high safety risks are often undesirable at, as it is operating in close proximity with obstacles for humans. For example, according to an article uh, by Airborne Drones, one, a consumer drone such as DJI Phantom 4 Pro, two, Object 2, can produce noise levels as of high as 81 decibels, which is equivalent to loud highway traffic noise at close range. Such high levels of noise can impede effective voice communications between nearby humans and cause significant annoyance and noise pollution, especially in an indoor environment where the noise may be amplified due to reflections and echo. Multicopter SUAS also present significant safety risks when operating in close proximity with humans due to their fast rotating propellers, as propeller injuries are the leading mechanism of drone related injuries, according to a study by Johnson. The safety risks associated with the use of multicopter SUAS are often lead to the deployment of safety measures through the physical isolation of nearby humans from the SUAS in operation. This causes inefficiencies in the workspace usage and the low concurrency in applications where the workers may have to wait to carry out work in the same workspace. The safety risks, together with the low flight endurance of multicopter SUAS, are also necessitate the employment of dedicated personnel for the operation of the SUAS, which increases the deployment cost of SUAS technology for various indoor applications. Due to the dangerous nature of multicopter SUAS when operating in close proximity with humans, there has been a lack of development in applications involving drone human interactions or cooperation, except for very lightweight drones of around 20 grams in mass. As such, the development of a new type of SUAS suitable for operation around humans in an indoor environment may create opportunities in novel applications such as advertising, entertainment, inspection, security, etc. A blimp, let's see, I lost it. Okay. A blimp is a type of airship that relies on lifting gases such as helium to maintain its shape and buoyancy in the air. Its lighter than air nature allows it for it to float in the air, even in the case of total loss of propulsion power, and its gas-filled body, which takes up a large volume, has large aerodynamic drag, which makes its flight less dynamic and more predictable. These inherent properties of a blimp make it significantly less dangerous for surrounding people compared to a multicopter SUAS with fast spinning propellers, especially in an indoor environment. Literature review: Sky, a spherical omnidirectional blimp introduced by M. Burry, is capable of performing 6 degrees of freedom motion with its four tetrahedral arranged actuation units, which consist of servo motor for rotation and a motor driven propeller with a propeller guard. The mechanical complexity and design of the actuation units may suffer from damage upon impact, and its 2.7 meter diameter size is too large to be deployed in more confined spaces. The propeller guard may also be insufficient for reducing safety risks around people. For example, long hairs may be tangled in the fast spinning propellers if they happen to come in contact. Similarly, the Halo drone from Startup Spatial is a blimp powered by side mounted propellers that is designed for indoor aerial filming applications. Aerobots, developed by Sharf, a spherical blimp prototype for satellite emulation purposes, are powered by side mounted electric ducted fans and capable of 6 degrees of freedom motion control. Balloon Cam from Panasonic was designed to have its quadcopter propellers hidden in four vertical cutouts of its blimp's envelope structure. All these designs are relatively large in size, and partially exposed propellers may pose cutting and entanglement hazards to nearby humans. Festo has developed an extensive variety of lighter than air aerial robots over the years. The eMotion Spheres project showcased multiple spherical blimps propelled by side mounted propellers, performing a precise and synchronized flight performance in an indoor environment. While free motion handling, another spherical blimp, has a pneumatic actuated gripper integrated into its helium gas envelope. Both of these projected showcase the versatility of a blimp platform in an indoor environment. However, the utilization of fast spinning propellers on these blimps still poses some safety risks to surrounding humans and objects. Inspired by various animals such as penguin, manta ray, and jellyfish, Festo has also designed a series of aerial robots with a mechanical propulsion method through biomimicry. See, in biomimicry, that's one thing that I've talked about. I want to see these things too. We might have to look some of these up if they're available. The air penguin swims in the sea of air throughout the use of flapping wing mechanisms attached to the side of elongated spheroid envelope. The air ray is shaped as a manta ray and mimics its movement through a flapping mechanism that is built into the blimp's envelope, which allows for it to glide through the air much like how manta rays swim in the sea. The air jelly is made up of spherical envelope of 1.3-meter diameter with 8 mechanically actuated fins connected to the body through a tentacle-like flexible structure similar to how jellyfish moves in water. The air jelly propels itself upward by pushing air downwards through the mechanical flapping motion of 8 connected fins, while the lateral direction of the movement is controlled by a pendulum, which displaces the air jelly's center of mass. These mechanical propulsion methods, based on biomimicry, are fascinating to look at and generally safe to operate near humans due to the relatively slow motion of flapping mechanisms. However, these flapping mechanisms are complex and built into the design of the blimp's envelope, which may increase the cost of maintenance for such systems if deployed as a SUAS in an indoor environment. The swimming movement of these aerial blimps may also be less maneuverable, requiring large turning radius to alter the direction of flight, which may make them unsuitable for applications with smaller spaces and one that requires precision flight control. Aside from producing thrust and mechanical means, Poon have developed a noiseless and vibration-free propulsion technology for indoor surveillance blimps that utilize iconic wind produced by an onboard ionic flyer for thrust. While a silent indoor blimp system is desirable, the high voltage nature of an ionic propulsion system makes it unsafe to be operated around human beings and objects that are sensitive to electrical discharge. In the pursuit of perfectly safe SUAS platform for close proximity indoor use, Wataru have developed Zerone, a spherical blimp that utilizes piezoelectric microblowers to circumvent the use of propeller for propulsion. The propulsion system constructed using arrays of piezoelectric microblowers is safe, silent, and effective. However, the generated thrust is weak and insufficient to propel the blimp to walking speed. S-Cloud, a torus-shaped blimp designed by Song, has coaxial propellers placed in the hole of the torus envelope to produce vertical thrust. A 2-axis servo motor controlled flap is placed below the propellers to deflect the downward airflow to the side. The deflected airflow then attaches and follows the bottom curved surface of the torus envelope due to the Coanda effect, which results in lateral thrust. This approach is innovative in how it utilizes the curved surface of the torus-shaped helium gas envelope as a means to redirect airflow through the Coanda effect. Contributions of this work. Okay, we can skip that one. Design of propulsion unit. The proposed blimp design is propelled by PUs on the blimp surface, which directly accelerate airflow along the surface of the spherical blimp. The accelerated airflow sticks to the curved surface of the spherical body due to the Coanda effect. This creates a lower air pressure above the surface and produces aerodynamic lift on the blimp. Body. The spherical shape of the blimp envelope is chosen so that the Coanda effect is equally produced in all radial directions. As illustrated in Figure 1, each PU went too far. Hold on. Each PU is made up of a closed impeller attached to the rotor of a DC electric brushless motor, with the motor's base attached to a mounting plate that allows for the PU to be affixed to the surface of the blimp with the use of adhesive. The electric brushless motor spins on the impeller, which in turn draws in air from the inlet of the impeller and ejects the accelerated airflow radially outwards over the surface of the blimp. Aside from the lift forces produced by the accelerated airflow, the rotation of the rotor and the impeller produces the reaction torque on the blimp body to which the motor's base is attached. This reaction torque can be utilized to manipulate the orientation of the blimp in flight. Okay. Figure 1, the one at the top, is the side view showing physical interaction between the impeller and surrounding air. Figure 2, and actually Figure 1 looks like we can blow it up. Okay, not that much. All right, Figure 2A shows an impeller design with symmetrical straight radial vanes. Although this is less efficient compared to backward curved vane impeller, it has an identical performance in both directions of rotation. This allows for the reaction torque from the spinning impeller to be utilized to control the blimp's orientation without placing the PUs in the counter-rotating pair arrangement. In the straight vane impeller, the thrust direction remains the same regardless of the direction of rotation. The PU with straight vane impeller will be called the bidirectional PU. And that's the image of it there. At the top says impeller air inlet, and then brushless motor in the center, and curved or straight impeller vanes in the top image, and then B is the same thing but curved impeller vanes at the bottom of the unit. Figure 2, isometric view of the impellers on the PU, an impeller with straight vanes, impeller curved vanes. Let's see if it's going to show. Wow. So those are all impellers. All those circles there on that sphere. And each of them is capable of producing thrust, torque, and given equations specifically. Let me see. Okay. I like that, man. That's pretty crazy. Allowing it so any way that these, depending on the combination of those impellers in any sequence, can cause this sphere or this blimp to move in any direction, is what I'm seeing here, is what I'm getting from this. So this is actually pretty freaking cool. This is actually pretty cool here. Okay, there we go. This is a picture of a prototype. Oh, I like it. I like it, Simon. I like it. I like it. Is this something to, yeah, I mean, obviously, some of these things we could be seeing flying around, right? If this is what they're doing, I like that. Let's see, this is figure 9, so I just want to read that part. What you're seeing in the middle is obviously a silver blimp object. Each one of those circles is an impeller, or essentially like a little fan on each side of it, and depending on which one goes off, obviously is going to determine uh, the thrust in the direction that that object is going to move. So this is very interesting because, yeah, if I saw something like that flying through the sky, I'd be pretty. I wonder what the hell it was. That's for sure. So it's good to know, to be able to see something that they'd be working on at the back, on the back side of this. Maybe we can find a video of this spiced cube prototype. So I'm going to look in just a moment. And let me read this figure 9. Figure 9 shows the spice prototype with the cube propulsion configuration. The foil balloon envelope used was the same as the side tetrahedron prototype, which was fully inflated with helium gas into a spherical shape to around 80 centimeter in diameter, which contained around 0.268 meters cubed of helium gas. As helium gas lifting capability at sea level is 1.114 kilograms / meters cubed, the volume of helium gas contained in the envelope was capable of lifting around 298 grams. So I'm in America. I don't know how many pounds 298 grams are. Hey Siri, how much is 298 grams converted into pounds? Oh, okay, it's not that much. 0.66 pounds. Okay. Not a grams guy. Let me see. Oh, nice. Okay, so these are the PCBs for the electronics of each of those devices. Very, very interesting. Now let me look this up. Let me check online. Let me see if they have any videos of this thing in action. Pretty sure what it'll do based on what it just said here, or how it would probably perform. It's not doing anything hypersonic or anything, but with all those impellers all over the body, you would assume it could change in a lot of different directions, fairly quickly. So we'll see. Let me see. Okay, let's see. Me looking online here just a moment. Xeron safety drone. Let me look at that one. All right. I think I found one here. All right, let's take a look here. I guess this is going to display what it will look like in motion. Like I mean, it's definitely compelling. Let's take a look. All right, that's pretty awesome. I like that actually. I think that's pretty awesome. Is that real? Yeah, and actually, it looks like. Let me bring this up. My camera. I need to do something with my camera real quick here. Let me bring this up here. All right, JSCO77, appreciate you. Thanks for coming. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Uh, yeah, I mean, if I saw something like that flying around, pretty sure I'd be like, what the hell is that, for one? And with the way that it would be able to change direction, that was one of the prototypes. They have a lot of different ones. So let me see if I could find one of the other ones. That was just the one, the Zerone. I want to find the one. Let me see if we could find this other one here. All right, so the spice, that one we were looking at, I can't find that one on video. They had a lot of different ones listed, so let me see if I could find one of these other ones here. Let me try this here. Okay, very compelling things that we're seeing on this here. Let me try this one here.
hardly hear them. Well, with local recordings from street.
And yeah, you can look these up. These are Coanda effect drones. So just drones using that, using, with that, manipulating the airflow using those impellers. That's pretty, yeah. I mean, if you look at that, I don't think there's any. Oh, actually, oh, you can see that. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone here that would say. I don't think there's anyone here who would disagree that if they saw something like that, it would. They'd probably
Spectrum Business
wonder
is made to
what the
work
hell
just
that it was. So I don't think that. I don't want to find one of these spheres. Hopefully, you don't get struck by this. Okay. Well, obviously, okay.
Right, so check this out. I have a fan mounted inside of a duct here and a fog machine mounted behind it. And what I can do is I can blow air through the fan and we should get a stream of smoke coming out of this nozzle. Now, I'll give you a quick demo. I should be able to deflect the air a bit with this piece of foam. So let's spin it up. Okay, so hopefully you could see the smoke getting deflected by that piece of foam, but watch what happens when I used a curved surface and put it near to the stream of air. you should be able to visibly see the air being pulled downwards around the outside of the curve. And this is due to an effect called the Coanda effect. This video is sponsored by Wix. Go to wix.com/go/Tom Stanton to build your free website today. So what is the Coanda effect? When air or any other fluid exits a nozzle at high velocity, it will pull surrounding molecules with it as it disperses into the stationary surrounding air. But when a surface is placed near to the flow, the air between the surface and the fast flow is dragged along with it. This causes a low pressure zone between the fast moving air and the surface, and the surrounding atmospheric air above it will push down on the flow, attaching it to the curved surface. So you might be wondering, how am I going to use this Coanda effect to produce thrust and lift a drone off the ground? Well, if you search Coanda effect drone into Google, you'll see many results that look like flying saucers. And initially it seems as though there's a centered propeller that blows air directly downwards to produce lift. But in fact, there is no hole through the center of these flying saucer type drones. Instead, the airflow from the propeller flows on the outside of the dome and follows the outside of the curve due to the Coanda effect. Now, these things are pretty cool, but I don't really see much point in putting a bowl-shaped dome underneath a propeller. You may as well just have the air from the propeller flow directly downwards. So instead of using a propeller, I want to use an impeller, which will basically blow air directly outwards, horizontally in a disc, and use the Coanda effect to then follow the outside of the curve of the dome. So let's 3D print some impellers. Since I have no idea what kind of impeller would be most suited for a propeller replacement, I printed many different types to test. Some couldn't handle the RPM of the motor, and some were too much for the motor to handle. I finally settled on this design as it was relatively close to the drone propeller in terms of current draw. The next step is to make the curved dome that will be mounted under the impeller to deflect the air downwards for lift. Now I'm going to 3D print the dome because it's the quickest and cheapest solution to me at this point in time. In order to make the 3D print as lightweight as possible, it will need to be hollow. But it's almost impossible to print this on a regular FDM 3D printer due to the huge overhang in the centre. And even with support material, it will be very difficult to print with such a thin layer. So I've printed this test dome in 2 pieces, and weighing in at 83 grams, plus the layer lines being perpendicular to the airflow, it wasn't ideal. So my next plan was to cut the dome into slices like a cake. That way I could 3D print the dome in 8 pieces, and attach that to a centre hub. This saved quite a bit of weight, and I'm not sure it could be much lighter using a 3D printing technique. The next step was to mount the motor and impeller to the dome, and see if the air really does get directed downwards due to the Coanda effect. And it looks surprisingly hopeful. Then I set up a thrust test stand with a conventional drone motor and propeller to get some control data. This setup produced 10.28 newtons of thrust while drawing 346 watts. I then replaced the propeller with the impeller and attached it to the dome.
So I think what this does for me is this shows that based on this method of propulsion, that you can see potentially some weird things out there, and if you're not close enough to hear, that you could potentially mistake something like that for something strange, right? Because you won't see the fan if the fan is mounted on top. So if you're looking at this from any other angle, you would not be able to view, like you're going to think of a classic quadcopter or a quadcopter dressed up as something other than just a quadcopter, but still being propelled by what we currently know, with DJIs and other sorts of drones that have propellers in specific locations, or even propellers or propulsion from the bottom, which give it lift. But this Coanda effect, right, which apparently is nothing new, it's something that's been around for a while. You know, these things look weird. So, okay, point taken, right? Point taken. Point taken. Analyze what it is that you're looking at, in order to understand if it's something prosaic or not. That was great information, Simon. Thanks for pointing us there, man, because I think that was a good something to look at just to kind of wrap your mind around um, other methods of propulsion that are prosaic that might appear strange and weird at first glance, especially the spheres. I mean, these are definitely weird. If you, I could easily see someone seeing one of these, and potentially, if they're not close enough to hear it, because sound is obviously one of the big things in reporting UFO sightings, then if someone wasn't close enough, I could definitely see them saying they saw something weird. There wouldn't be anything conventional that they could think of, right? That they could say, oh, that's probably a drone. So I like that. But even more so, the one that we saw, the the spheres. The spheres are even more intriguing. And too bad I couldn't find a video on that, because that's really what I wanted to see. These are weird, but to see a sphere that, unless you knew what you were looking at, had all these different impellers on it that allowed it to change direction, not at supersonic speeds, obviously, so not none of the five observables, but looking when you look at the Mosul orb, I still think that that's probably something unexplainable. I'm still going to lean toward that, but if someone were to tell me, based on the speed that it was moving at, if it wasn't moving at hypersonic speed, and someone were to say that was one of these spheres uh, using what we just read through, then I probably could lean that way. I mean, it at least muddies the water and takes it out of the whoa, that's definitely something from out of this world. So I like that. I'm a middle of the road person. I like that. So any evidence, and this was on the Arrow website, so bravo for them for having it up there, because I'll give them that for sure, because that is definitely something to consider, right? So yeah. But it still doesn't explain a lot of the things that we've seen as far as like things moving hypersonic, and but for something kind of lofting around and then having the, because give you example. So when there's certain sightings where you'll see something going, maybe not even against the wind, but something that wind is going one way. Sometimes it whips around, but generally it's carrying something from right to left, left to right, in a continuous motion. And a lot of the times when there is something that a skeptic may call a balloon, um, a way to debunk a skeptic would be to say, well, it's changing direction and it's doing these different things. Now, I have to say, if the wind wasn't that strong and you had one of those spheres that we just looked at with the impellers on it that would be able to kind of change its direction, that would be pretty strange to see. And that would probably be something that someone would use as an argument against someone just calling it a balloon. So, man, I like that. I like that. Well, I'll have to do more research into that too, because That's eye opening, right? Because that's something that's in private hands, public hands, I guess, in some cases. And it's something that I would say wouldn't have been on the table as far as part of a conversation prior to you seeing it and knowing that something like that exists. You have to be truthful. How many people in this lobby knew that that existed? Who knew that that existed? Who knew that there was a sphere that had impellers all over it that would allow it to change direction depending on which one fired off? Who knew that? Who knew that? Because if you can tell me that you knew that, then and you truthfully did, well, we'll have to give you a round of applause because I'm going to probably say a lot of people don't know that. And I can probably promise you that if that was introduced to the conversation, then there may be a few of those signed. And not saying those are prototypes, so they could be flying those around in some cases, but not in most cases. So I mean, it's not gonna be the answer to everything that people are seeing, but it could answer one person sighting potentially if they saw this being flown somewhere. They didn't know what the hell it was, and it changed directions. It was a sphere on a light, windy day or no wind at all, and was able to kind of just go one direction and then all of a sudden kind of just start going another direction. Somebody would probably report that, I think. So, yeah, yeah. that's pretty that's pretty pretty strange, right? Pretty strange. So I'll admit that. Thanks for bringing that up, Simon. I'm glad that you showed that or pointed that out. That was something that we for sure should have looked at. And it's on the website. So I'm going to have to go through some of those other PDFs and see at a later time and see kind of what else is in there. But I think that is something that should be added to the conversation, something that a lot more people should be aware of. So let me see. Mm-mm-mm. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Very enlightening. Very enlightening. Let me go ahead and stop sharing that. Okay. And I think Alien Outlaw was talking about moon stuff right earlier. So, yeah, let's talk about the moon. Let's talk about the moon landing, right? Who believes that we landed on the moon? Who believes we landed on the moon? Did we? I think it could go more than one way. And actually, I don't think we did. So we're going to do this. I'm going to review my own review. Instead of, I already have it laid out. So I'm going to review my own review and we can discuss it. Okay, let me see. All right. All right, so we're looking good there. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump out of the
Let's do
news,
this. We're gonna
and
jump
then
to
just
the
start
moon.
kind of pondering the whole moon thing. So let's go ahead and get out of the news. All right, so we're gonna get into moon landing, going back or first time. You know, we have Artemis 2 is gonna supposedly take our astronauts to the moon in 2024. And I'm asking the question, are we actually going back or are we actually going for the first time? And there's a good reason to ask that question. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that can talk on both sides of that conversation. And I like to entertain both because I'm middle of the road. And if they presented me with some evidence that said, nope, we didn't go, and it was undisputable, guess what? I'm over here with the people who believe we didn't go. If the evidence shows that. If they say, look, we did go, guy, check this out, look at all the stuff, then guess what? I'm over here with the people who said we went. So it's always good to play middle of the road and kind of just be open minded and listen to the information and the evidence. And, here's the thing that I can't understand, right? You have some people who just, for whatever reason, stand on one side or the other of that argument. So how? And I would ask that person, unless they can give me some real good facts, and this is kind of where that conversation happens. So I ask them, how do you know? How do you know we went? Did you go? Like, you just because you believe that NASA would never lie to you or tell you a story, or like, what is the reason that you believe that we went to the moon? What facts do you have? What test did you run that shows? What telescope did you use?
So just so we say, so I'm doing this. This is the show that I did on the moon, and it's easier for us to just review this instead of rehashing it. So we'll kind of go over the main part where I go over the points of if we win or not, and you're more than welcome to chime in the chat. I can see that, but yeah, we'll play this for the portion where I go over the points about the moon. So it's kind of what we're doing here. So I think it was pretty good. So let's go.
We went to the moon. What facts do you have? What test did you run that shows? What telescope did you use for you to know that we went to the moon? And that argument goes to the other side as well. Didn't go to the moon. Well, how do you know that? What proof do you have that we didn't go? Right? So that argument can happen all day long, but that's when you sit down and you start pulling out evidence and saying, see, this is why, making the argument. Both sides should be open minded to information that's being presented. And that's kind of what we're going to do today. We're just going to look at, there's some of the basic stuff that everybody has already gone over and said, and we're going to look at that. Um, Let me go ahead and check the chat here. So, okay, get my notes up here. All right, so let's see. Okay, so no wonder Karen has been suggesting Wild Wild West Artemis. James Western, Stanley Kubrick knows the answer. And he may. He may exactly know the answer, and that may just be the end of it right there. Or could be maybe that was not proven. Do we go back to what evidence do we have? Excuse me. Magneticus says NASA showed me a rock a few times. My brother Roy works for NASA, and there's still a lot of things that I don't buy. So let's see. Cowboys 5 rings. What's up? What's up? Welcome to the show. All right, Maggie M10. I just find the whole we lost technology highly suspect. We're right here, Maggie. We're right here. That's part of my presentation. We're going to get into that. That's going to come back up. So let's see.
We talk about the Van Allen belt, Alien Outlaws. So check this out.
Mike Jones. Thanks for coming through. Mike Jones says, Rob G, what's your thoughts on the picture of the flag waving in the air on the moon? Yeah, we're going to get to that, Mike Jones. That's part of the, so I'll stop when we get to that and then readdress that here. Let me actually save that question. And also Maggie M10's question there. Okay, so let's see. All right, Raymond, thanks for coming through. And let's see. James Western, conspiracy theory seems to think Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landings, so I think he knows the truth. Yeah. And obviously, if he did film them, he'd be sworn to secrecy. I believe he passed away, right? He's no longer alive. I'm not sure about that, but I believe that that's the case. Okay. Magneticus says he can explain the waving flag. And see, that's where the conversation happens back and forth. That's where, so one person says, okay, this is my proof that it didn't happen. And this person says, well, no, I can prove it. But that's the fruitful conversation, because if it's good information, if you could prove why the flag was waving, then the opposite side, as long as they're open-minded, should be open to that explanation, and then be able to move forward to the next thing. Okay, well, you proved that. Okay, well, I can go with you on that. Let's see. Oh, Derek, you sure did, and I should have brought those. Maybe I don't know if I can show them. Derek Galloway did send me some photos of what appeared to be men on the moon. I'm glad you brought that back up, Derek Galloway. Because I actually, let me see here. Let me see if I can actually bring those up. I think I can. I can at least show you on camera. And that's evidence that Derek Galloway has brought forward. So let me see. That would be this here, and
yeah, no, Maggie M10. This is how we run the program here. It's Mr. Regular Dig Shows. Looking forward to Wednesday. These have been fun too. So for those who have never seen how we normally do it,
but
this is the normal show here that we do in the daytime.
This is one of the pictures Derek Galloway sent.
We'll be doing on Wednesday.
To the number 856-843-3444 or 856-THE-DIGG. That's where Derek Galloway sent this picture. Once again, you guys can do the same thing. If you have anything that you want to show, you have any experiences, anything like that, please feel free to do that. So this is, I guess, what are we seeing here, Derek Galloway? Is this a moon rock? I would assume this is a moon rock. So this is, these are from what Derek Galloway is saying are, I got some photos that the public isn't privy to, not scrubs. This is one of the ones that he's talking about. And there's others here. I don't know if I can get you to the others, but we have this one here. We'll show this. The glare is crazy, huh? Okay. This is what Derek Galloway sent me, right? Those guys look like they're on the moon, but they could be in Las Vegas in the desert because I've seen terrain looks just like that, but that's where the conversation starts. So who knows where they're at? Who knows? I've been to places in Las Vegas, or not in Las Vegas necessarily, but in Nevada, and you would swear you were on Mars or the moon, or just you wouldn't even know. Okay, Raymond. What about the NASA official saying they lost the plans, had to get back to the moon? See, we're talking about that. Maggie M10 said the same thing. I mean, oh boy. Let me see. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Mike Jones says Raymond JFK was going to do a joint moon mission with Russia and the without the tech, how can they say they went? Yeah, it's heated, right? It can get heated. So here's what we're going to do. Man pushes for the moon. Man pushes for the moon. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lay it out for you, right? 1969, summertime. This is how NASA would love for you to believe the events went. And it could be true, and we're just going to see. So, the summer of 1969, the world held its breath as humanity embarked on an unprecedented journey. The Apollo 11 mission was poised to make history. On board the spacecraft were three brave astronauts, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Michael Collins. As the Saturn V rocket thundered towards the heavens, millions watched, hearts pounding, hoping for the success of this audacious venture. The crew hurtled through space, leaving behind the blue jewel of Earth, venturing further than any humans had before. Meanwhile, back on Earth, families, friends, and strangers united in a collective sense of wonder and pride. They listened intently to every transmission, their eyes fixed on television screens, waiting for that monumental moment. Finally, days after days of travel, the lunar module, affectionately named Eagle, separated from the command module, leaving Michael Collins to circle the moon alone. Inside the Eagle, Armstrong and Aldrin guided their spacecraft towards the lunar surface. As the Eagle descended, the tension in the control room was palpable. Every second counted, every maneuver scrutinized. Armstrong's voice crackled through the radio and composed, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." A wave of euphoria swept through mission control. The world let out a collective cheer. They had made it. The first humans had touched down on the moon. After hours of meticulous preparations, Neil Armstrong descended the ladder, his heart pounding in rhythm with the history he was about to make. With deliberate steps, he touched the lunar soil and declared, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." Buzz Aldrin soon joined him on the surface, and together they planted the American flag, a symbol of human achievement and unity transcending borders and politics. They spent hours conducting experiments, collecting samples, and capturing the stark beauty of the moon on film. The Earth hung in the sky, a fragile blue marble against the vastness of space. As the mission concluded and the lunar module blasted off, the world watched with bated breath. The rendezvous with Michael Collins was a testament to human ingenuity, precision, and collaboration. The return journey was met with relief and jubilation. The three astronauts splashed down into the Pacific Ocean, and a new era dawned for humanity. The Apollo 11 mission had not only fulfilled a dream, but it had shown what united determination and boundless imagination could achieve. The legacy of Apollo 11 lives on, a beacon of hope and a testament to human potential. Awesome, right? Sounds awesome. That is a picture perfect story, a picture perfect tale to tell all of humanity for years and years to come. Just the epic all American story. Just awesome, right? Surface of the moon, planting a flag. We're here first. We did it. We did it, right? So here's what we're gonna do. Let me go ahead and say hey to Jody Terry. Hey Jody Terry, thank you for coming through. And Raymond, I heard there were dark alien bases on the dark side of the moon. Also heard we nuked the bases. It wouldn't surprise me if we have bases there. Always lied to by our government. Yeah. And James Western, on the flip side, you never seen Russian moon pics. Great point. Everyone all over Earth has seen USA's pics. No one's seen a Russian moon pic. Excellent point, James Western. Excellent freaking point. Jody Terry, I remember watching the moon landing on TV. And that's exactly, so we just went over how it played out. How it played out in the summer of 69. It all happened perfectly, landed on the moon. This is one of the images we got. It was a beautiful day. Beautiful day. And actually, but not everybody felt that this is what happened. So there is an alternate story. So at least this is the way that NASA would like for you to remember it. A lot of people disagree with that, with how it actually went. So here's how the story goes from their eyes. Here's how the story goes from their eyes, from the people that said, wait a minute. So same thing, summer of 69. Let's go ahead and get into it. So in the summer of 69, in the hushed corridors of a covert film studio, was transformed into a meticulous recreation of the lunar surface. Every crater, the rock, and speck of moon dust was meticulously crafted. Advanced technology was employed to simulate the harsh lighting conditions and the desolate expanse of space. The astronauts, handpicked for their acting prowess, were coached to perfection. Neil Armstrong, the stoic commander, embodied the role effortlessly. His calm demeanor and deliberate movements were rehearsed to convey the gravity of the moment. Buzz Aldrin, the second man on the, quote, moon, mirrored Armstrong's performance flawlessly. The absence of stars in the photographs was an intentional choice, a calculated move to eliminate any inconsistencies that might arise from the simulation of the lunar landscape. The film crew knew that including stars could inadvertently reveal the earthly origin of their production. Special effects wizards worked tirelessly to create the illusion of low gravity. Harnesses and suspension systems allowed the astronauts to float effortlessly, their movements choreographed with precision. The flag planted on the moon was designed to ripple and sway, mimicking the behavior of fabric in a vacuum. As Neil Armstrong's voice echoed through the radio declaring, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." The team held their breath. The world listened, captivated by the broadcast. It was a performance for the ages, a testament to the artistry and ingenuity of those involved. The iconic words, "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," were scripted to perfection. They echoed through the studio, recorded for posterity. The world watched in awe, unaware that they were witnessing a masterful production. In the years that followed, the truth remained hidden, known only to those who had played their roles in this audacious feat. The film reels were carefully archived, the studio dismantled, leaving behind no trace of the lunar illusion. As the decades passed, the story became enshrined in history, a testament to human achievement. The Apollo 11 mission hailed as a triumph of science and exploration, was in reality a testament to the power and imagination and artistry. And so the secret of the lunar hoax remained hidden, tantalizing whisper in the annals of history, known only to a select few who had witnessed the birth of mankind's most ambitious illusion. So that could very easily be the story. So we know the story that everybody goes with, the majority goes with, which is the original story that I read. Summer '69 is a beautiful day. It all happened perfectly. They landed on the moon, they stepped out, they planted the flag. But then we have the ulterior story that says it was the summer of '69. They were in a film studio. They recreated the lunar surface. And so, you know, being middle of the road, either one of those could be true. So now I say, show me the evidence, right? Either way, whichever side you stand on in that conversation, show me the evidence. You know, depending on you, and that's to you guys. You whatever side you're on in that argument. If you say, hey, no, it happened, they did land. Okay, tell me why. If you say, oh no, it didn't happen, tell me why. We have both sides of that conversation. So a lot of the popular ideas of why this was faked would be obviously what we're looking at here. So the film studio expertise suggesting that a level of detail in footage and photos could have only been achieved in a high-end film studio, implying a staged production. Moon landing being filmed on a set by Stanley Kubrick, who had just done a space movie and had special effects that were way ahead of the time at the time. And let me take a look here. Okay, let's see. What about the astronaut suits? Look like it was filling up with water. Anyone see that? Magneticus wants to pay for the vacuum chamber time. Reds, which by the way, thanks for coming through, Reds. I don't know if I told you. The flag wouldn't wave unless something from the thrust was hitting it. Maggie M10, yeah, I remember the water leak in the suit. Reds, and if that was the case, moon dust would cloud the shot. And the mechanical arm was inducing the waves, says Magneticus. Okay. All right. Well, so flag movement, which is the next thing, is what we're talking about here. So critics arguing that the American flag planted on the moon seemed to ripple as if there were wind, which would be impossible in the vacuum of space. The lack of stars, we always hear that argument, but it's been, to me, explained pretty well. That some claiming that the absence of visible stars in the moon landing photos is suspicious, suggesting they were taken on soundstage with artificial lighting. You could say that, but we all know if you live in a city that's lit, well lit, you can't see any stars up there. You have to go out of the city to really see the stars. So, you know, you can go, I lean more towards that isn't a good argument for it. So, in the shadows, like I don't, and you'll find out a lot of the things that they say, and them kind of going over the main ones that everybody says is the reason why it was a hoax. It isn't necessarily, you know, isn't really like the burning proof that is needed to say, yeah, this is a hoax. So the shadow and lighting, I think this has been explained away pretty well, pretty good as well. So some people point out that they see inconsistencies in the shadow cast by objects in the moon landing photos, suggesting multiple light sources. But we've seen on plenty of occasions that we had people that proved that could be possible. So kind of let that one go. And this is the other one that they always use, which is skeptics arguing that there should be noticeable blast crater beneath the lunar module where the engines fired during descent, but it appears relatively clean in the photos. Now, I will say I did see some of the closer photos that did show some disturbance in the soil. So won't stand with that one. And here's one of the big ones. The Van Allen belt, right? So this has been one of the biggest ones where people say, yeah, no, couldn't do that. They couldn't go through that. They would not survive that. They couldn't make it through that. And, you know, I had kind of been leaning towards that as well. Like, hey, that makes a lot of sense. If there's lethal doses of radiation and it was completely surrounding the planet, like how in the world could they do that, survive that in pretty much a tin can, right? So this is how this was explained. So just to start off, some claiming the Van Allen radiation belt surrounding the Earth would have been lethal to astronauts, and then NASA failed to adequately shield them. So apparently, what Professor Van Allen, so there was a person who looked into this and sent an email to Professor Van Allen, and this was the reply that he received. It says, "Dear Mr. Lambert, in reply to your email, I send you the following copy of a response that I wrote to another inquiry about 2 months ago. The radiation belts of Earth do indeed pose important constraints on the safety of human spaceflight. The very energetic tens of hundreds of MeV protons in the inner radiation belt are the most dangerous and the most difficult to shield against, specifically prolonged flights, i.e., ones of many months' durations of humans or other animals in orbit above the Earth must be conducted at altitudes less than about 250 miles in order to avoid significant radiation exposure. A person in the cabin of a space shuttle in a circular equatorial orbit in the most intense region of the inner radiation belt at an altitude of about 1,000 miles would be subjected to a fatal dosage of radiation in about 1 week. However, the outbound and inbound trajectories of the Apollo spacecraft cut through the outer portions of the inner belt, and because of their high speed, spent only about 15 minutes in traversing the region and less than 2 hours in traversing the much less penetrating radiation in the outer radiation belt. The resulting radiation exposure from the round trip was less than 1% of a fatal dosage, a very minor risk among the far greater other risks of such flights. I made such estimates in the early 1960s and so informed NASA engineers who were planning the Apollo flights. These estimates are still reliable. The recent Fox TV show, which I saw, is an ingenious and entertaining assemblage of nonsense. The claim that radiation exposure during the Apollo missions would have been fatal to the astronauts is only one example of such nonsense. Signed, James A. Van Allen. So what do you do with that? It's the Van Allen belt, and Van Allen replied in the email saying this is how they could have done it. So that, like I said, middle of the road, presented with evidence, that's pretty strong. That's pretty strong. Pretty strong evidence that says that they could have gone through that radiation belt on the way to the moon and not really been affected. So this would help out the argument of yes, moon landing happened, right? It would. I mean, you can't deny that. So some other things that people use would be the lunar module descent. Some argue that the video footage of the lunar module's descent is too smooth and stable, suggesting it was filmed in a controlled environment. But how can you prove that today, one way or the other? It's just a claim, right? So going into the next one, it'd be footprints and soil composition. Skeptics argue how astronauts left such defined footprints in the lunar soil without moisture, and argued that the soil looks similar to earthly materials. And I guess you can be the judge of that yourself. I mean, have I been places here on Earth where, you know, your footprint will look like that if you stepped in something? I mean, I gotta say, yeah. I mean, and there may be reasons, obviously, that this could be the case, that it would happen on the moon, and I'm open to someone telling me what that is. Let me go ahead and check the chat here. Let's see. Okay. All right. It was general conversation, so that's okay. All right. So, like I said, I don't have enough information or evidence to refute this. However, it would make sense that, hey, that does look like, it could be wet dirt. How would it be wet if it's on the moon? So I'd be waiting for a reply to that, a rebuttal. So there's, as you see, there's wins for the people that say, yeah, it happened. There's wins for the people saying, no, it didn't. I mean, some of the things that you have to just explain. So another one that's always used, and well, this one is pretty controversial, but it's the political motivations. So some theorists often bring up the intense political pressure during the space race as a possible motivation for NASA to fake the moon landing to beat the Soviet Union. So we were in a space race with Russia. They were first at many things in the beginning of the space race. Russia launched Sputnik in 1957. So what you see here, we were losing, actually, the space race. We were losing. We were losing in all aspects. We were not first to do any of those things. Now, following that, 1961, obviously, if you recall, John F. Kennedy made the famous moon speech promising that we would get to the moon. So he says, if I can read what he says here, he says, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard, right? He said we would get there by the end of the decade. He said this in 1961. Could he have the foresight and ability to know that we would be able to achieve that, something that no one has ever done ever in history, and be able to say that it would happen by the end of that decade? That's pretty strong. When you look at NASA right now, it takes them years to put together missions and do anything. They're telling you about missions that are going to happen 10 years from now. So, was Kennedy ever be able to call that? And this would have been the first time. Yeah, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough. But just so happens that we definitely got to the moon 1969 at the buzzer, summertime 1969. 6 more months, and this Kennedy quote would not have even
Almost, Maggie.
had as much weight to it. So is it something, with political motivations, that argument makes sense. It makes a lot of sense, though, when you think about it. We're losing at everything. We're losing. They're first to launch, put something in orbit. They're first put a man in orbit. They're doing all those things, and we were losing, man. So what do? You go for a big win. You go for the big win, and that might be what we're looking at. So, but like I said, just take the evidence, and at the end of the day, you process it how you process it. For you, it may not hold anything. For you, it may be like, wow, that does make kind of sense. I mean, it's, you don't have to lean that way, but is it logical? And that's a lot of the stuff I find out that it doesn't take a lot of brilliance to figure some of this stuff out. A lot of this stuff is common sense, man. At the end of the day. And I know everybody has that. So that's your best tool. Use your common sense when it comes to this. So getting into so that makes a lot of sense. So, but there's cases where they're proving that the moon landing is real. Some people try to use the reflectors that they left on the moon, saying, "Hey, no, they shoot lasers at these things all the time. They shoot back, and that's how we know." How far the moon is at any given moment, and they put those there, so there you go, that's the proof. However, it had been uncovered that I can't remember the college, but there was a university in 1963 who had already been shooting lasers at the moon, and because of the reflective surface of the moon, they were getting readings back already. So they had been shooting lasers at the moon prior to the moon landing. That's just the truth. So that doesn't mean that they didn't go to the moon and then also put those there. That could still be the case. But there is a fact that they were already shooting lasers at the moon prior to a man landing there. So I thought that was interesting. So looking at both sides of that. So getting into this is one where people say, "Hey, okay, moon rock. How could you?" And Derek, this goes to the photo that you showed me. Astronauts on the moon. They have moon rock. Like, okay, you cannot dispute moon rock. How did they get the moon rock, right? How could you dispute that? How could you dispute that, right? You would think, but as you see on this headline here, moon rock given to Holland by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin is fake. So the way that this went, so first of all, apparently while they were on the moon, they collected over 380 kilograms of moon rocks as soil that were brought back to Earth. Um, but the problem with this is that the country that accused the United States of giving them the fake moon rock is the Netherlands. So in 2009, the Dutch National Museum of Natural History, also known as Naturalis, discovered a moon rock that they had on display was actually a piece of petrified wood. It had been presented to former Dutch Prime Minister Willem Drees by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin in 1969 as a gift on behalf of NASA. This incident led to the realization that the rock was not an authentic moon sample. Could have been a mistake. They could have grabbed the wrong rock, right? They could have grabbed the wrong rock. I guess that's possible. Is it? Does it make sense? If we use our common sense, is it possible that they gave them petrified wood instead of a moon rock? I don't know. You guys answer that. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other. So you let me know. You let me know. Magneticus, yeah. 856-843-3444, or that's 856 the dig. Let's see. So yeah. Jody Terry, you making a great point. Remember, the astronauts looked very scared or shook up during the interview, scared and maybe worried because they were told to lie. I don't know which. We're going to be looking at that too. Don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. Maggie M10 says, whoa, wow, that's nuts. No, not the wrong rock. Holy wow, exactly. Busted, and got called out. They got called out. This just happened in 2009 when they figured out that that the rock was fake. The way this happened was when they got back from the moon landing, they went like on a tour around the world, and these were gifts that they were giving to other nations, saying, hey, we want to share this moment and achievement with you. and it was found out that the rock was petrified wood. Maybe Buzz, Mike Jones says, maybe Buzz did a switch, or none of them are real. Right. That's what I mean. So what do we do? What do we do? It's just the evidence. The evidence, if you're open minded, that's some pretty damning evidence, man. There should hopefully, I would personally, if I'm like, whoa, okay, that's deep, then I would want some evidence showing how that mix up could have happened. That's what I would want to know. And I'm not leaning either way right now. I'm not saying that I'm not fighting for team it didn't happen, or I'm not even fighting for team it did happen. I'm just giving you the facts, and you do with them what you will. James Weston says he remember hearing about NASA giving away fake moon rocks as gifts, but never actually gave the real ones. And that could be a true story, but it could be just hearsay as well. That could be the story to cover up the fact that these rocks are all fake. You know what I mean? So in 1969, no one has seen a moon rock. So you can give them anything. You could give them a loaf of hard bread and said that was from the moon. But hey, yeah. So I thought that was pretty big, but yeah. So there's other arguments. So the Soviet Union, obviously, they're in the space race. So the Soviet Union is obviously looking at us like, whoa, we've been beating them all this time. Now, boom, here they go. They're on the moon. Whoa. So they're saying that if this had been faked, the Soviet Union would have called that out immediately. They had just called that out and said, nope, it's not true. You guys didn't do it. And, that's a good argument. That's a good argument. But then it can't be the only evidence that you have is that the Soviet Union would have called it out. Maybe, maybe not. You have to compile that with other evidence. But I'm presenting you with it all. Now you just take it and then be like, whoa, okay, it weighs on me. A lot of evidence says they did go, a lot of it says they didn't. So we'll get there. We're getting there. And then we have, this is some pretty damning proof here if you look at the surface of it. So the reconnaissance orbiter images. So apparently NASA has a reconnaissance orbiter that orbits the moon and has taken pictures of all of the landing sites showing, as you can see in this photo, the landers, and then in Apollo 15, in that case, in 16 and 17, the rovers. So on the face, this would be like, wow, case closed. Okay, there's the tracks. I see tracks. I see some things. I can't see what they are. I can't see the definition of what these things are. But you're saying they're landers? Okay, I see some tracks. Man, that's pretty heavy evidence there. Pretty heavy evidence. Right? You would think case closed. This should be enough right here. But I'll tell you about a time when Carol Rosin, if you're familiar with that name, came in 2001 to the Dr. Stephen Greer's Disclosure Project 1.0 and gave testimony that she said she'd be willing to swear the oath in front of Congress, stating that she worked for a contractor that worked with NASA, and she had access to the photo room, which I guess was across the hall. She goes over there and she sees a guy that's essentially, his job is to airbrush the photos that NASA takes and airbrush things out of them, essentially, like imperfections, anomalous things. And she asked the guy what he was doing, and he pretty much told her, yeah, I'm scratching out some things, and so many words let her know that he was scratching out anomalous things. So if they're doing that, could they put things into the image? Photoshop? I don't know. I can do a pretty good job at Photoshop, and I'm not, the professional. So I know that you could add things to pictures. We can. There is no way for us to verify that these came directly from, the source. And then once again, it's not leaning one way or the other. It's just stating a fact. Like I would have to have more evidence for this. It would seem on the surface that this should be just a slam dunk. Like, hey, but with Photoshop being a thing, in the same way that we look at UFO sightings and we have people that Photoshop those photos. I mean, we got to do the same thing here. How can we vet it? What's the chain of command? I mean, chain of custody, right? What's the chain of custody? So, yeah, Mike Jones, chain of custody on the evidence has got shade, right? Chain of custody. So, how do we know what hands this has passed through? So, yeah, Carol Rosin, Rosin, I believe is her last name, and it's just Carol, Carol. I did. If you go back and watch my Disclosure Project 1.0 video, I covered everyone who spoke at that event, and I want to say I also played video of Carol Rosin's testimony, so you can actually hear her tell this story that I'm telling you right now. And then Maggie M10, at the time, editing photos would have seemed far fetched. Now, so many people are doing it. Filters, apps, and phones. Exactly. Smartphone apps. Magneticus, if UFO land in my backyard, I wouldn't believe it unless a rock bounces off of it. Jody Terry, they can do far more with technology today than any of us know. So they can put in or take out anything they want. Right. Magneticus, yeah, that's how you spell it. Carol Rosin. But like I say, you can look it up. You'll probably find it online, but just go back and watch the Disclosure Project video I did. I did two. I did Disclosure Project and Disclosure Project 2.0. Watch the Disclosure Project 1.0. That's the one that she testifies in. Okay. So let me go ahead and get that off here. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this should be slam dunk, but what we know people can do to yeah, if we could all look through a telescope and see the rovers or third party, maybe, yeah, you would think so. And the thing is, they're rushing to the moon, so what could if they hurry up and get there? There's a new conspiracy because it's like, oh, did you plant any of these things? Did you know what I mean? So hopefully, this would be something that can be figured out before Artemis 2 even gets to the moon. Yeah, if you watched the first Disclosure Project, Magneticus, you definitely saw her. Robert Salas, all those guys testified there. It was really good. So, yeah. So going further, we're almost to the end of this. We have. Oh, okay. This doesn't weigh anything. This is just me talking some mess here. But I wanted to point this out. It was funny. And it doesn't really mean anything. Or could it mean something? I'm not claiming that this means anything at all. But you have Artemis 2 and then Apollo 11. Artemis 2 using Roman numerals. Artemis and Apollo, according to Greek mythology, um, Apollo is one of 12 Olympian gods in Greek mythology, often associated with sunlight, music, healing, and prophecy. Then you have Artemis, which is Apollo's twin sister in Greek mythology. She is associated with the moon, hunting, wilderness, and childbirth. So is this NASA saying, okay, with it being the twin situation, that, okay, is this NASA admitting, hey, yeah, we didn't go the first time, but we're going this time? Artemis 2. This is off NASA's website, so they're not using the number 2. They're using Roman numeral 2, which both of these would be A11. And this is obviously doesn't have, a lot to it. This is just me being funny on this, and saying, and magnetic is a number guy, so we know about 1111. But yeah, I mean, you take that, you do with that what you will. That's just, I thought it was pretty ironic and strange. And yeah, Mike Jones video did a few back on Kennedy in World War II was really good. They all good, but that one was deep. Yeah, here's the thing, Mike Jones. A lot of people don't like deep. I think you're talking about, was that the top secret government? I think that's the one. A lot of people, that isn't what they sign up for. They want to see some of the fantastical stuff and some more of the fun stuff. When it gets deep, not a lot of people want to get into that conversation. But I never apologize for that. I never apologize for it. If it doesn't do well, view wise, oh well. The conversation still has to be had. That's why you go back and look at intergalactic capitalism. That's another one. Didn't do really that well. You go into the has MUFON dropped the ball? Is MUFON a bad organization? That one didn't do that well. These are all deep conversations, but I don't apologize for any of that because they have to be had and they're there for eternity. So whenever you get around to wanting to have that conversation, it's there for you. It's in the catalog. Maggie M10 likes deep. That's what's up, because I do too. Jody Terry likes deep. And Mike Joe says, yes, man, don't apologize for seeking the truth. Not at all. MUFON was a great vid. Yeah, just do them and move on. It's my important thing to me is for the key things to be part of the catalog. So when you go back and look in the Social Dig catalog, you're gonna find a little bit of everything that touches all the important conversations, and a lot of channels don't do that. So that's what we do here, though. So let me see. Yeah, Maggie M10. I know it was deep. I know I felt it when we were doing the episode. You had to think about it, and it's still something to think of. It's heavy. It's a heavy conversation, and the one we're doing next week on the Scientology, that's why it's taking so long, because that one's going to be another heavy one. So I anticipate it probably won't do the best, but it's still a conversation that has to be had. Mr. Terry Hall, thanks for coming through. We are getting deep here tonight. Once upon a midnight dreary high all. Terry's in the building. While I pondered weak and weary. Okay. So yeah, that was something fun I pointed out. Just it doesn't really mean anything end of the day. But it was ironic that, this is what are they admitting that they didn't go. Because as someone pointed out earlier, and we're gonna go into my thoughts about all this. So my thoughts, this is just some things that I threw out there, and maybe somebody can answer these. So, as far as going to the moon, if you say you went to the moon, they were using basic electronics aboard the lunar module that were less powerful and less sophisticated than a calculator watch. However, they were able to navigate to the moon, right, and back. And it could be that was enough technology to do it. That could be the answer to that. So the lunar lander test on Earth failed. Neil Armstrong was in it and almost died if he didn't eject himself. Crash landed. So they couldn't perfect the lunar lander operation on Earth, but they got to the moon, and it was great, successfully first time. Could be. So they went all the way to the moon and took perfect, beautiful pictures in 1969. When in 2023, when visiting a location here on Earth for the first time, We never seem to get the perfect shots in the moment. If you ever went somewhere on a vacation, first time you see it, like, oh, this is beautiful. Take a picture, get some pictures, but you never get the perfect shot. Somehow they went to the moon, landed, got out, clunky suits, and got the perfect shot, picture perfect shots, many of them. Could be. Could be first time luck. They just happened to do it, and that's how it turned out. It could be simple as that. However, I think it'd be something to, look at a little more closely. How can they do that, and we can't even really imitate that here on Earth? Okay, that's for you to decide. So here's another one of my thoughts, right? So NASA was confident enough in the moon landing that they chose to live broadcast across the globe as if no possibility of a disaster happening on live TV, even though this would be the first time a human would actually put foot on the moon. So potential that these astronauts could die, but you live stream it to the world. Yeah, doesn't make sense. I mean, to be fair, Nixon did have, apparently, for what they've uncovered. Now, it's also another chain of custody issue with that, but there was a letter that had been uncovered that pretty much was a speech in case that did happen. If it went all wrong, there was a presidential speech that Nixon was supposed to read, and it talked about the families and how we lost them and their heroes. So that was something that people said was there, but it's chain of custody on that. I would need to know when that was written. Was it written after the fact, or was it really actually authentic letter that was on hand in case something happened? So that makes a difference. So another one of the thoughts: how could we manage a nearly flawless live broadcast from the surface of the moon back in 1969? But here on YouTube, we can barely get through a live stream without something going wrong. Back in 1969, how could we transmit a flawless, movie perfect, if you want to be real, movie perfect transmission in 1969 at a time where Kennedy said we were going to be there, and then we got there, and then we chose to show it to the world, and we executed it flawlessly, and we filmed everything perfectly, and we transmitted this transmission back to Earth, picture perfect, flawlessly for everyone to see. Could it happen? I guess. I guess. I guess. However, you can't even get through a live stream without, you cross your fingers to get through a live stream. Take that with however you may look at it and go with it. Maybe that says, oh, wow, okay. Or maybe it doesn't do anything for you. Either way. And then this was one of the questions I'll bring back up here because this was it was Maggie's question. I just dropped it. I'm sorry. But Raymond asked it too. What about the NASA officials saying they lost plans on how to go back to the moon, right? That was my next thought. Is why does NASA have to refigure out how to go back to the moon prior to Artemis 2's launch, essentially claiming that the knowledge that led to the first moon landing was lost? Like, how does that even make sense? How does that even make sense? How do you lose technology and information? So maybe that's what happened in NASA. They lost this UFO data too that they used to have that was compiled that we know they had. Yeah. So with that being said, those are my thoughts. And you can take that with however you want to do it. But this was the other thing that we all talked about, right? So Let me bring it up for everybody to see. The Apollo 11 press conference. And the question here, do these look like the faces of men who just accomplished a monumental feat? Look at these guys. They're at the press conference. They're going to be held as heroes, world heroes. Look at the body language. Astronauts returning home didn't seem as happy as one should be after being the first humans to step foot on another celestial body. Could you agree with that? I mean, just everybody's seen the press conference. Or it could be as simple as this. See, this is how evidence can turn you either way. So yes, that makes good sense looking at that. The meme that we sat here and put. So do you look like faces of men who just accomplished a monumental feat? It's like, wow, no, they don't. They look defeated, like Jody just said, right? So, but then look at this, Jody. Mike Jones says, that's the body language you see, and you raise the bet. Exactly. But guess what? The meme can change just like this. Wait, let me get Terry Hall in there. Look at their faces after you would have been to the moon. What else is going to top that? Not like riding the Harleys, like riding a freaking rocket. That's right. Look how quickly the meme changes, though. Is this the look of men who found something living on the moon? Whoa. Bombshell, right? That could go either way for me. I could go either way with that. It could be these guys went to the moon, yeah, and they saw something that they didn't want to see. That could be the faces of these guys I'm looking at. Or it could just be some guys that know they didn't actually go to the moon, and now we have to sit here in front of these people and act like we did. Man, it's tough, man. It's really tough. It's really, really tough. So, you know, some think this is because they saw something while they were on the moon. Some think we haven't been back because we were warned not to go back by ET presence. This is what a lot of people say when it comes down to the moon. Is the moon already occupied? Is the moon already occupied? So I'm going to read you this. Now, regardless of any of this, NASA has been deceiving us on the UFO front. As we have seen with the latest press conference since the beginning of the space race, based on that fact, this can only mean one of two things. Either we did go to the moon and we encountered something, or it's all a lie and we never went at all. Where do you fall in that? That's the both sides of the conversation. Yeah, we did go. Or no, we never went. They just been lying. That still ends up being the end result. But it's the potential, the look on their faces would say that it's going to either be they encounter something or they're lying and they didn't go. That's just what I see with those facial expressions. Doesn't make it true, but hey, Chris, Steve, thanks for coming through. Yeah, so that's where we're at with that. So is the moon already occupied? Who knows? We'll leave it on a cliffhanger and ask the chat.
Ask the chat.
Do you think we really stepped on the surface of the moon? What is your opinion on that? Either way it goes. It could be yes, could be no. David Divine broadcasted. Thanks for coming through. They look like they're in detention. It does. It really, really does. And it could be for whatever reason. Christine says she thinks we really did. Hey, we got a one for really did. Now, I would implore you, Christine, and it does isn't this. We already said this video is not meant to sway anyone either way. We're just presenting facts and evidence. So, um, if Christine, if you're just coming in, go back and watch some of this good stuff. A lot of good facts presented, and then maybe you still feel the same way at the end. Maybe. Mike Jones is 50-50. Maggie M10 is highly questionable. Highly questionable. Jody Terry says flip a coin. Maggie agrees with that. Okay. So, with that being said, I think we made the case. Either way, we didn't make a case either way. We just presented the facts, and it's for everyone else to go ahead and figure out how they feel about that. So, with that being said, let me see what else we got lined up. Okay. Okay. So that was the moon landing presentation that we did here on the Social Dig about a month before I started over at Spaced Out Radio. So, um, played it because I think it was laid out in a fashion where you were able to absorb the information that was given, and like I said in the video, not here to sway you either way. The question is, did we really go? And the answer could be yes. The answer could be no. And it really depends on the evidence. It's not about what you believe. That's where we have to stop. That's what we have to stop doing in ufology. You have to stop just going on belief just because you believe something happened. That's not how things work. You need evidence. So that's how you hash things out. You have an open mind, you take a middle of the road approach, and then you present the evidence. And where the evidence sways you is where you go. Now, you can't just go. I can tell you that, it's raining today in California where I'm at, right? I could tell you that, but it's not. It's not raining at all. And you would have to get some, either you believe me and because I said it, or you can want to demand some facts on that. Like, let me see, show me outside, let me check the weather report, let me check some radar. So we have to stop just believing things in ufology and just going with belief. And that's kind of goes to why I was so into what Brian was saying the other day on After Hours yesterday, actually, and just having a real approach. Like, we have to get all the BS out of the way so that we have a clear picture. Now, if we come with the same approach, and that's what skeptics ask for, right? They ask for proof. We need proof that aliens are here. We need proof. And what I'll say is that if we both had to start at the same point, where you're neither a skeptic nor a non-skeptic, because we're just being presented with information for the first time, then the way that you come to your conclusion is to have evidence presented to you. So, excuse me, if no one in the world has ever had a sighting before, and someone comes and says, "Oh, I think some things are coming out of the sky," no one has experience with this, so we would all need evidence to show that that was the what was going on, right? And then we start getting either videos or pictures or data, things of that nature. So even in this case with the moon, it's great to think of both sides of it. It could be that we made a successful mission on that first try. We got there with the technology we had. Everything went as planned, and we did it. And then not only that, we came back safely, and that was the story. And that could be the story, or the story could be we never went. We needed to posture in front of Russia and the world, and we needed to make it seem like we did because they were already beating us in every other aspect of space exploration. And so we faked it, and that could be the answer too, right? So
at the end of the day, what does the average person have for evidence in any of that? It was a story. Some of us weren't even alive when this happened. And so these are stories that were handed down to us based on video evidence. The evidence that was presented to us as growing up was video evidence of astronauts walking on the moon, and other things, and things that we talked about today. So, I think that I really think that we have to have we need to approach a lot more of what we do in ufology, and to be taken more seriously on a bigger stage is to start asking for evidence and not just believing. Because if you just tell me you believe something and you don't have the facts to prove it, or you can't walk me down a path to show me why this is the case, and you just believe to believe, then you're no better than a skeptic that just disbelieves just to disbelieve, even though there's evidence out there that can be presented. So, and I've done a show about that as well, skeptic versus non-skeptic logic, and how, the people on the far ends that are extreme skeptics, or who just don't believe in anything, are just as bad as people on the opposite side who are non-skeptics, who just believe because somebody told them so. So those two sides are just as bad to the conversation and really shouldn't be included. So when we're looking at both sides of the conversation that we're going to have, regardless what it is, especially related to this phenomena, is we need the skeptics, the regular skeptics. We need the regular non-skeptics, because both sides are open-minded enough to hear the other's argument. And then that's how we have the conversation to move this path forward to where we need to get to. But we have to leave these extreme hard skeptics that just don't want to hear anything, because they just stand on it can't happen, it could never happen, they can never get here. Okay, well, you need to stay out the conversation, then you're not going to help advance this conversation. Same thing with on our side, on the believer side, where these people just believe just to believe. Well, you're doing yourself a disservice, because I could tell you that it's raining soda from the sky, and you're just going to go with that. So neither side helps forward the conversation. And I did that show on skeptic versus non-skeptic. We created a chart, and you have to figure out where you fall in that, because you may figure out that you are either a hard skeptic and maybe you can change your view and become a little more open-minded, or you may find yourself that you're just a believer who believes anything, and you may want to tweak that a little bit so that you open your mind up to some of this stuff not being true, just like we looked at with the information Simon pointed out to us on the Arrow website that showed that, hey, yeah, there's some silver balls that are actually balloons that have these impellers all over them that can move in different directions without wind being present, or could essentially, if the wind is light enough, go against the wind. I mean, that's evidence, and it should be brought to the table, like I said earlier. So wanted to play the show because I knew it was already laid out pretty well as far as the conversation. So yeah, I mean, if you have anything else to add to the conversation, I would love to hear it. But like I said, the video was done that way so that you can make your own decision based on evidence at the end. So I would implore you, if you that and to point out, that's how we normally do this show here. And we normally air it at like 5 p.m. Pacific time, which we'll do for the Scientology show on Wednesday. It'll be at the normal time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. And we're going to do it in the same format that we normally do, as you saw there. We have our news report that we do. We do the main topic. We get into our history, which is once upon a time in ufology, where we look at something that has happened within ufology in the past. Excuse me. And then we give a movie recommendation, science fiction to science fact movie edition, where you go back and you watch one of these movies that we bring up or that we present, and the whole idea is to look at it through these new lenses. Now we understand that science fiction is actually reality in some cases, and then some of these videos are viewed differently, like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like, obviously, when it was done, it was science fiction, and if you hadn't been privy to or brought up to speed on the fact that these things are real, you'd take it as science fiction. But then now that you're in this new world or this new reality, if you want to call it that, then you look at a movie like that again, and it's like, wow, everything in there is real. Everything they're depicting is real, and it's just a different viewing experience. So I would definitely implore you guys to come see the show on Wednesday at our normal time. Like, some new people think that the late show that we're doing here is just what we normally do. This is secondary, actually, to the normal show that we would normally do. As some of the older viewers here know. So we'll be getting back to that, because just like we had that presentation, I like putting stuff together in that way and having it presented, so where you walk away with, some knowledge, some deep conversation. And if you go back in the catalog, look at some of these previous videos that we've done, you'll see there's a lot of ones, that you might not see at other channels, conversation wise. And, it's some good stuff to go back and check out. So dipping into the Social Dig archives this time. But yeah, I actually, I'm glad that we got to do that so that some people could see how it goes here. And yeah, appreciate that, Alien Outlaw. That was for you, right? Because you, at the beginning of the show, you brought that up, and I was like, you know what? I already have that up. And then I was like, you know what? Why not just, instead of trying to rehash that presentation in the moment, why not just present it from the video? Because I think that it was actually pretty cool. So yeah, with that being said, excuse me, I think we had a pretty great night tonight. I'm going to stick around here because I want to make sure the video at least hits the 3-hour mark. So we got about 6 minutes here. So if there's anything, good one, Rob, appreciate you. Yeah, so how did you thank you, Mr. Rob. Appreciate you too, Maggie M10. As you see, you were in the video. You're in probably a lot of these videos. And I appreciate you, means that you've been around and supporting, and I do appreciate that. Magneticus also, and everybody here. You guys are return viewers, and I do appreciate that. To Mothman, everybody in here right now. Lovey Love, Black Dragon. Might as well do this part now, right? Instead of trying to wait till the end. Let me go back. I know we have some new names in here I hadn't seen before, which was awesome. Decipher. Let's see. I know JSCO77 was here earlier. I said Magneticus. I'll say it again. Sovereign. I said Sovereign. Let's see. Derek Galloway. He's been around for a minute too. And Black Dragon. If I didn't say, I may have said it. I'm saying it twice. Oh well. Deb from SAC. Let's see. I know Wes, I think Wes H did come in here. Wes H's newer name, which I do appreciate as well. And then truthfully, like I say, sometimes there's lurkers that aren't in the chat, but are kind of just watching, which is cool. That's appreciated. All I ask is that if you like what you see or anything that you heard, if you enjoyed any of this, hit the like button, and then please consider subscribing. And we'll always, we're always trying to raise the bar here and bring you better stuff. The call-in show, like I said, is secondary. It's not what this channel is built on at all. If you go back and look at the catalog, the call-in shows started recently, but we just try to make sure that we bring a lot of shows that present good information, especially for people that are just coming into this subject. A lot of people who have been in this for a long time know a lot of the information, and this is more like a gateway place for some of those that are. Oh, Lex Diaz, thank you. For those that are just kind of realizing what's going on here. Let's see. I think I'm almost back. Race fan. Oh, Race fan was here too. Race fan. Oh, Simon the Likeable. Yes, of course. Simon the Likeable. Brown Dwarf. Let's see. I know I said Tamoth Man. I better have said that, Tamoth Man. I know I did, but thank you, Tamoth Man. Christine. Yeah, Christine was here earlier. Thank you, Christine. Yep, JSCO. Oh, Eternity Eternal. Definitely a new name, and appreciate you for coming through today. Wordless, thank you for coming. Yep, there's West H. Okay, that's it. All right, all right. Okay, so yeah, Wednesday for sure. We're doing Scientology. So period. We're doing that. I'm gonna put together the slides today. Now, here's the thing with Scientology, right? Scientology is not really a subject. There's so much going on within Scientology. There's so many pieces and parts to, like, you would think that, okay, it's just a bad group. Okay, yeah, but there's a lot of bad stuff going on within Scientology, so many different aspects. There's no way that you can properly cover it in one episode. So I'm gonna lay down the basics, and make sure that there's at least the picture painted. But there's gonna have to be like part twos and threes to that as well. So we're going to dive into it though, and we're going to make sure that we cover most of the important parts. And like I said, it's just so much bad stuff going on in there. Just like you heard Jim talking last night, and he said his sister got, I don't forget the word he used, kidnapped or tricked or something along those lines, and just not captured. I think he said captured by Scientology, which is a good descriptive word to use because that's essentially what happens. We'll bridge off of that show and get into the cult stuff because I did want to talk about the Heaven's Gate cult because there's some stuff that's kind of ironic there. These guys, we understand what happened in the end with that, but that was a cult based around. They were for people who may not have been around at the time that happened, or the reasoning, which doesn't make it right, period, because it's a cult and you were talked into doing something that you probably wouldn't have normally done. But the whole reasoning was that they were doing what they did because they were under the belief that there was a spaceship that was coming at a certain time, and just giving you the rough draft of what it is. But the spaceship was going to be here at a certain time, and they had to catch that ship, and they had to do what they did in order to release themselves to be able to get on that ship. Now, we'll look into the thought process of that and see why a person would believe that. Knowing what we know now about UFOs being real was what they did behind them, having sightings or experiences themselves where they understood back then, 30 years ago, that, yeah, this is real.
there are really spaceships, and then because of that, they were under some sort of belief system that they in a way for them to connect would be to do what they did, right? I don't know. It'd be something that we'll explore because I think it's something crazy to think about. Yeah, Tomoth, man, I don't know when that happens, man. I'm just playing by ear right now. You know, if that day comes, I definitely appreciate it. But I think it's more so for just us learning together, man, and just kind of forging this path that we have to get on. So if something happens at some point, it's not going to be because I just want to monetize this channel. That's not even the outlook here. We're growing, which is a great thing, but it's not the first thing on my mind. However, you know, I would love to up my production value and bring, you know, a better presentation and things of that nature. So, you know, we'll just play that by ear. But I appreciate you, man, and appreciate the consideration, right? It just shows that there's appreciation there for what it is that we're doing. So, you know, I love that. I appreciate that. So thank you very much. Maggie M10, the dig is great for filling gaps in knowledge, in my honest opinion. Thanks. Yeah, and Maggie, see, a lot of people aren't used to what we would normally be doing, so I'm just going to be glad to get back to that format. But I still want to continue these. So I'm going to have to figure out, you know, I want to juggle both. So we definitely have to get back to the normal format. And also, while we crush it over there at Space Out Radio After Hours and do crazy things over there. So with that being said, let me go ahead and get us ready to get up out of here, right? Thanks for coming in to the Social Dig tonight. Like I said, if you're out there watching, if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. This is the place where we try to move the needle on behalf of humanity, because we do this for the positive progression of humanity always and forever. This is essentially what we say every show because it's true. It is there. It's so true. And if you go back and watch, you know, I went back and watched my welcome episode. It was like a 3-minute video when I first put the channel up, and it's like a mission statement for the channel. And literally everything I said in that 3 minutes is literally what we have been doing to get to the point today. I swear. And that just lets you know how authentic that what I'm saying is. Like, this is just no fluff, no anything. This is really me speaking from the heart. It's been the vision, and that's where we're taking it. And once again, if it doesn't move the needle for humanity, if it doesn't help us progress positively towards ascension and getting to where we need to get to, then it isn't worth doing. It isn't. It's spinning wheels and wasting time, and I value your time, and you know, that's not what we're here to do. So totally appreciate you guys, man. You guys are the best. I really appreciate the support. I appreciate the conversation in the chat. And on these late shows, you know, we can talk, I can talk, you know, but I would love for you guys to join the conversation. That's the motto of the channel. Come join the conversation. It's a social dig. We dig into topics. It's also, the dig means a place where you can hang out and be social, right? And that's kind of double entendre. That's what we do. So once again, thanks for showing your support. It's been crazy. I don't know what else to say. I guess I'll see you guys Wednesday. Let's get ready. 5 p.m. Pacific. A lot of new people think we just go on at 11 on the weekends. No, we actually do normal shows at 5 p.m. Pacific. So hit the notification bell, because then you will be made aware when those normal shows air. And we're going to get back to doing a lot more of that soon. So with that being said, let me see, is there anything else I got for you? Be really cool if you could do a combination. You know, Maggie, I'm thinking about that, and I might do that. That's actually, because that's what I was doing with the earlier show, is I opened it up for the call-in lines, but we had to build that up. So now that we have that, then I might do it. But I also want the episodes to be concise with the information that we're delivering. So I don't want to cloud that up. So I'm thinking about it, but we'll see. So thank you so much for coming. You guys have a great rest of your night. Have a great week. Remember to check Dave out tomorrow, Monday through Friday, Space.Radio. Have a great rest of your night. I will see you guys Wednesday. Take care, y'all.